Hello everyone. This is Kathy from the Ridgefield Library, here to show you another fun and easy craft that you can make at home. Last week I taught everyone how to make tassel bookmarks. If you haven't had a chance to check out that video yet, you can find it on the Ridgefield Library's YouTube channel. This week I'm going to be showing you how to make a yarn covered letter that can be used as a wall hanging or a shelf decoration. This project is very customizable and super simple, so let's get started. To make your yarn covered letter, you're going to need a few things. The first thing you're going to need is a piece of cardboard. Now I'm using an old cereal box that I cut up, so the cardboard is very thin and kind of flimsy, but that's okay. You're also going to need some yarn. Now I'm going to be working with some thicker yarn because it is a little bit easier. However, I did use thin yarn when I made my example, and as you can see, it turned out perfect. You're going to need a hot glue gun as well as a glue stick. You're going to need a pair of scissors to cut the yarn and the cardboard, and you're also going to need a pencil or a marker. The first step to making a yarn covered letter is to trace and cut out the letter of your choice. Now as you can see, I'm going to make the letter K for Kathy. Now I did trace this letter by hand. However, if you're not comfortable doing that, you can always go online and find a template to print out, then trace that onto your cardboard. Now I'm simply just going to cut out my letter using my scissors. Now that my letter K is cut out, it's time to start wrapping it with yarn. I'm going to be wrapping it in sections to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to start on the upper left-hand corner of my letter and then work my way down and eventually across. Since I don't want any part of my cardboard showing when I'm done, I'm going to start by putting a strip of glue at the top of the letter and then covering that with a piece of yarn. So I'm adding a thin strip of glue to the top of my letter, and then I'm taking my yarn and I am carefully placing it on the hot glue, and I'm going to hold that down until it is nice and dry. Once that first piece of yarn is secure, I'm going to continue to wrap the yarn around my letter bit by bit. Since I don't want to waste all my hot glue, I'm only going to use the hot glue around the edges of my letter, and for the rest I'm going to use my glue stick. So I'm going to start with my glue stick, and I'm going to cover the front and the back of the first part of my K, the upper left-hand corner, with the glue stick. As you can see here, you see the glue stick, and then I'm just going to put some hot glue on the edges, in the front, and the back. So the hot glue will keep my yarn secure on my letter until that glue stick is nice and dry. So I'm just going to wrap the yarn around that letter. Now that the top part of my K is covered with yarn, I'm going to continue down my letter until I reach this first corner. Notice I haven't cut my yarn yet because it can still easily wrap around the cardboard. So I'm just going to continue putting my glue stick glue on the front and back of my cardboard and the hot glue along the edges. Then I'm going to simply wrap the yarn around this cardboard letter. So first I'm going to start with my glue stick glue on the front and the back, and my hot gun glue on the edges. And then wrapping. Once I reach this first corner, I'm going to stop wrapping the yarn around my letter, and it's time to cut the yarn. So I want to cut the yarn so that it will be behind my cardboard and not in front of it. So I'm just going to cut the yarn, and then I'm going to place a small piece of hot glue and secure that piece of yarn in place. Now that my yarn is cut and secured in place with a piece of hot glue, it's time to start working my way from the bottom up. So I'm going to flip my letter upside down, and I'm going to repeat the same process I just did. I'm going to glue a piece of yarn to the top of my cardboard and then wrap it around my letter bit by bit, stopping when I get to this corner. Now that the top and bottom of my K is covered with yarn, we're going to repeat these steps for the other two sides of our letter. We want to make sure that we stop when we get to the two corners, even though that means that there will be an empty spot of cardboard in the middle. Now that my K is mostly covered with yarn, it's time to fill in the middle. Now, depending on which letter you're making, you might not run into a problem of having a difficult area like I do. For this last step, I'm going to use my hot glue gun so that when I place my yarn, it will definitely stay where I want it to be. I'm really going to have to place it around each individual corner in order to cover my cardboard completely. Now that my entire letter is covered with yarn, I'm going to trim off some of the excess pieces of yarn. I'm also going to take this time to add some decorations like buttons and ribbons. Now that I'm done trimming and decorating my yarn covered letter, I wanted to share with you all the final product. I added a piece of ribbon to the top to make it into a wall hanging. The great thing about this craft is you could pretty much add anything you want to it to make it 100% yours. I really hope you've all enjoyed my video, and I can't wait to make another project with you.